What do you say, Andy?
I say let's do it.
All right. Yeah, we're not giving out money.
I will try
Okay.
to move us through as quickly and
Yeah, I think
efficiently
we'll
as
be,
possible,
yeah, I think
but
we'll,
also give the time and respect to all of the amazing applicants. So,
so
all
far,
right.
let me see if I see anything in chat. See, we have one attendee. Okay, I'll keep the chat up just in case, and I have my email up in case anybody wants to email. Okay, yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Lott, and I will be the panel chair for this meeting. And I'm calling it to order at 2:02 here on the West Coast. I am calling in from Las Vegas. I want to welcome everybody to the Nevada Arts Council FY24 Teaching Artist Roster Review. Thank you to those joining us today, to the applicants in the audience today. Thank you for listening in. Your attendance shows your commitment to arts education, and on behalf of the staff and the board of the Nevada Arts Council, I want to commend and thank you for all that you do. At this time, will the Nevada Arts Council staff that this meeting, will the Nevada Arts Council staff confirm that this meeting was properly posted?
Yeah, the meeting notice was properly posted at all the required sites. Thank you.
This is Andy. Thank you, Mary Jane. We begin our Nevada Arts Council meeting by acknowledging that we gather today from the ancestral homelands of the Numa, the Niwi, the Nuwevi, and the Washishu, who have lived in the Great Basin since time began. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude to our four major indigenous groups, the Northern Paiute, the Shoshone, the Southern Paiute, and the Washoe, not just the original caretakers of the land we now call Nevada, but for their enduring stewardship and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Today, the Nevada Arts Council reaffirms its commitment to improve the quality of life for our 27 tribal nations, bands, colonies, and the 62,000 plus urban Indians who choose to make Nevada their current home. Again, my name is Andy Lott. I'm a board member of the Nevada Arts Council, and joining me today is our arts learning specialist, Mary Jane, who will be co-chairing this meeting and monitoring public comments submitted through email. Our panelists today are Karen, Gail Marie, and Tia, and at this time, I will let each of you provide a brief summary of your background and where you are joining us from. We'll begin with Karen.
Hi, yeah, I'm Karen McKinney. I spent 40 plus years in theater education, working 38 years at the Rainbow Company in Las Vegas, Nevada. And now I'm mostly in the audience.
This is Andy. Thank you, Karen. Gail Marie.
Hi, I'm Gail Marie Palmeyer, and 2 years ago, I retired from UNR after 37 years, and I am, for the next 2 weeks approximately, the current Poet Laureate for the state of Nevada.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, we'll move to Tia.
Hi, my name is Tia Flores, and I'm a working artist, but I'm also an arts educator for over 25 years, and I am up in Reno right now, and I am also the program director for Sierra Arts Foundation.
Shoot. Are we frozen?
Public who wish to participate during a public meeting may do so by providing public comment during the two designated public comment periods. Because of time considerations, the period for public comment by each speaker may be limited to 3 minutes at the discretion of the panel chair, which is me. And speakers are urged to avoid repetition of comments made by previous speakers. The panel will not take public comment regarding any applications under consideration. Mary Jane, is there any public comment?
Hi, this is Mary Jane. I don't see any now. And just to let you know, I'm getting this, my connection's kind of unstable, so it's froze on me here and there. So like, if you don't see me or hear from me, it's kind of going in and out, just so you know. Of all days. Okay, thanks.
This is Andy. We will hopefully you stay there because I might need to lean on you for some help, but we will now move to agenda item C for possible action, review of the Nevada Arts Council's teaching artist roster applicants. The Nevada Arts Council has assembled a review panel that is composed of experienced artists and arts educators. We encourage panelists to engage in the review of each application and speak in support of applicants that you believe provide the greatest evidence of being able to accomplish the council's goal to promote and expand quality arts education experiences and lifelong learning in the arts for all Nevadans. The panelists will review and discuss 11 applications for inclusion on the FY24 Teaching Arts roster. After the completion of the review, the staff will forward the panel recommendations to the Nevada Arts Council Board for review and approval at its upcoming meeting in February. Please remember that during the panel meeting, the audience members may not speak except during the public comment sections, which are before and after the review panel discussion. You may also submit public comments via email to Mary Jane, and that's MDOROFACHUK@nevadaculture.org. That chat box, or you can put it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand during the public comment sections. Please note, applicants who are online observers do not have an unfair advantage over those who are not in attendance. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact staff after the meeting. The public meeting is being recorded. Please remember to identify yourself each time you speak and to speak loudly and clearly so that your comments will be clearly recorded and heard by the audience. All applications reviewed here have been reviewed by staff for eligibility, and all applications submitted to the panelists for review are eligible. It is the panelist's responsibility to determine what extent each application is worthy of inclusion on the roster, not to evaluate the applicant's eligibility. Please note that the panelists reviewed all applications and all supplemental materials online prior to this meeting. Panel members are not permitted to enhance any application by offering their personal knowledge of an applicant. No information beyond the application itself may be discussed. Staff may only provide clarification and/or assist panelists in locating the information. In accordance with Nevada open meeting law, panelists may not discuss any applications outside of this public meeting, so please make sure that no discussions regarding applications occur during breaks or after the meeting adjourns. All panelists previously received information regarding conflicts of interest. If a panelist stands to profit in some way from the awarding of this position to any of the applicants we will be discussing, the panelists should refrain from participating in the discussion and voting on that particular applicant. Conflict of interest forms were previously provided to the panelists and have already been signed and turned into the Nevada Arts Council staff. Panelists, when I call on you, please state your name and announce if you have any conflicts of interest. Karen.
Karen McKinney, no conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Gail.
Gail Marie, no conflict of interest.
Thank you. And Tia.
Tia Flores, no conflict of interest.
This is Andy. Thank you. Mary Jane, please read the description of the roster and the review criteria.
Okay, this is Mary Jane for the record. The Nevada Arts Council Teaching Artist Roster is an online resource for schools, organizations, and communities seeking to engage teaching artists. Roster artists are experienced in collaborating with schools and communities to conduct arts learning and cultural experiences through and about the arts. The Teaching Artist Roster is divided into two tracks, an education track and a community track. Artists may apply in one or both tracks. Eligible disciplines include literature, dance, traditional arts, folk life, music, storytelling, theater, design, arts, architecture, visual arts, media arts, multidisciplinary arts. The education track. This track is for artists who conduct arts-based experiences in pre-K through 12 settings. Artists must demonstrate knowledge and understanding of their discipline, be able to implement standard-based curriculum practices, understand and develop assessments and evaluations, understand goals and objectives, and demonstrate successful collaborations with sponsors. Artists in this track typically provide hands-on or virtual programming in pre-K through 12 settings, school, after school, and summer programs, and may provide professional development experience for teachers. Sample lessons plans are submitted as part of the application process. The community track. This track is for artists who conduct arts-based learning experiences in community settings. Artists must demonstrate knowledge and understanding of their discipline, have experience in engaging participants of varying ages and experiences, and demonstrate successful collaborations with sponsors. Artists in this track typically provide programs, workshops, lecture demonstrations in community settings, both in person and virtually. A sample program description is submitted as part of the application process. Artists may apply in both tracks. Those applying in both tracks must submit appropriate information for each track. Applicants who submit identical information for both tracks will be automatically withdrawn from one of the tracks. So everybody has gone through within the tracks stated. Also, I did want to say that an artist that applies in both tracks, they can be accepted either in both tracks, and sometimes they may not be accepted in both, but it doesn't disqualify them from the other. So I wasn't sure whether I explained that to our panelists before or not. So, okay. Okay, you're up, Andy.
You're muted.
Man, I've got like 2 screens up and I'm trying to like script it and do it, and I forgot to push the button. This is Andy Lott. Thank you. We will now begin the review of the applications for the FY24 Teaching Artist roster. As a reminder, applications and all support materials have been reviewed by all panelists. Panelists will discuss each application. After the discussion of the applicant, each panelist will vote with a yes or a no to the following question. Would you recommend this artist for the community track? Would you recommend this artist for the education track? An applicant that receives 2 out of 3 yes votes for that track will be recommended for inclusion on the roster. Moving forward to applicant number 1, Ashley Vargas has applied for the community track, and Gail Marie will let you open the floor with some discussion. So comments from each of you, and then we'll move to the vote.
Okay, and forgive this cold. I've got a cold up here in Reno. Okay, so I'll be doing this quite frequently. All right, for the community, this applicant is in the running for the community track. As Andy mentioned, I think this applicant's ability to engage an audience via spoken word techniques is quite outstanding. I did think, however, that the sample program description lacked some substantive detail, but then when I looked back, these were 45-minute sessions. And of course, not a whole lot you can do in 45 minutes. So I'm hoping it was just sort of a skinny skeletal version of what might be a fuller lesson plan, for lack of a better term. I thought also that the letters of rec were really pretty wonderful. So this is my first time doing this. So anything else I need to say, or
No, you're just kicking it off for us. And then at
Okay.
this time, if Karen or Tia want to chime in with any thoughts or discussion points they want to have, it's kind of an open, we just get to like we can chat, like we've got coffee or something fabulous. But Karen, you're on mute this time.
There, how's that? I agree completely with Gail Marie. A couple of things that stood out in the letters of recommendation. I loved the quote, "She helps poets grow into the best version of their unique voices." And one of the letters of rec called her a transformational educator. I gave her pretty high marks for everything.
Hi, this is Tia Flores for the record. I too agree with what Karen and Gail Marie said. I was also impressed with the letters of recommendation and her consistently impressed by Ashley's exceptional academic ability, strong work ethic, poetic wisdom, and intellectual curiosity, and her engagement with her students. I think she would make a wonderful candidate for the roster.
Thank you. This is Andy. And at this time, we'll move to a vote. And so we'll just move in the order that you just each spoke. So Gail Marie? Yes or no?
And it's community track.
Yes,
okay.
sorry.
I'm going to say
Community
yes
track.
for community track.
Karen?
Karen, yes, for community track.
And then Tia.
This Tia, yes for community track.
So while Mary Jane is calculating that vote, this is Andy. If there are any recommendations that you would like to make towards the applicant, this would be the time. Wonderful. Hearing none, we'll move to applicant number 2. This is Andy again for the record. Application number 2 is Matthew Morgan and has applied for the education track. This time around, we'll let Karen start the discussion.
Okay, Karen, this applicant is posing to create workshops that involve the integration of Shakespeare and clowning, performance, circus acts, physical theater, and storytelling. He has good credentials. I thought some of the quotes that I like: the love of physical play and storytelling with a love of rich, deep, and poetic text. I was impressed with his letters of recommendation. I wondered about one of the best ones was written by his high school drama teacher, who he then went back and mentored with to learn about education. I loved all the text he submitted. I wondered about his sample lesson plan. I thought for the weight of being a education track and the fact that he's proposing to teach Shakespeare and the physicality, integrating that into the text. And I thought that all of his support materials involved adults or him performing, and his lesson plan involved Mad Libs, which I'm not sure is weighty enough for what he's proposed. It seemed very slight. It seemed to me, rather than being the body of a lesson plan, it should be a warm-up or an introduction. The video showed a young woman reading the Mad Libs, inside jokes, lots of giggling, not a bad thing, but is that how we want to teach Shakespeare? That was my comment.
And then the floor is open if Tia or Gail Marie want to add any additional comments or thoughts.
I'll jump in and just say I was really impressed with this applicant and kind of delighted with the application. I'm going to I might be agreeing here, but because I did think that in the lesson plan seemed a bit much for some grade school audiences. But I'm always applauding the ambition. You know, I'd rather see something that's really weighty than a lesson plan or a proposal that's thin. So that was my only drawback on this, that I wasn't sure that the proposals that we saw were necessarily appropriate for the particular audiences being addressed, but I loved the application.
This is Tia, for the record. I too agree. I loved reading this application. I enjoyed reading the letters of recommendations. His samples that he gave, I found very engaging. I think he would definitely engage high school students in learning about this particular subject matter. His willingness to draft out the lesson plans, make sure that they were in alignment with the Nevada academic art standards for fine art. He seemed to have an understanding of that. There's not much experience there as far as teaching, but it looks like he's got the foundation there to do a good job.
I did also think that it was an excellent application. I just had an issue with the body of the lesson. And yes, Gail Marie, having taught all these things, I think he has about 7 hours there of
Yeah.
lesson plan, but you always want to have a backup. The worst part is not having enough.
Mhm.
This is Andy. Thank you all for that. If there are no additional comments, we'll move forward into voting. Is that okay? Perfect. So we'll move through with a yes or a no for application number 2, Matthew Morgan, for the education track. We'll begin with Karen,
Yes,
Gail Marie,
Yes.
Tia.
This is Tia, and yes.
This is Andy again. Thank you. Do you all have any additional recommendations or comments for the applicant?
I would recommend when he applies for grants in the future that he include more supplemental materials that focus on the population that he's going to deal with.
Ditto.
This is Andy. As I'm not hearing any additional comments, we'll move forward to application number 3. Application number 3, Joanne Russ has applied for the community track. And this time around, Tia, we'll let you start the discussion.
Yes, Tia, for the record, I also enjoyed reading this application. I noticed that Joanne also is referred to as J.K. Russ, and that her letter of recommendations came very highly on her, about her. She has extensive background in her art form. Her support materials also demonstrated that she has a general working knowledge and creating engaging and fun learning environment for the people that she enjoys working with. And yeah, I found that she is a qualified applicant for this.
This is
I'll just
Andy.
jump in.
Great.
I just
Perfect.
want to sort of underscore that. Thank you, Tia. I really, again, I thought this was also a pretty outstanding
Mhm.
application. I really sort of love the images in the supporting documentation. The workshops really seem to show true engagement in the community there. And I'm kind of glad I have notes. If you saw what my desk actually looked like, you'd be appalled. So I'm going, where did I put that note? And I'm looking at a previous note, and I actually thought the lesson plan was really outstanding. So
I agree. I liked that she's worked extensively with mixed ages, which seems to work really well for the community track. And I loved, or an excellent conscious tie-in with the art form and desert life. Superior talent, training, execution. I thought her work and enthusiasm were excellent recommenders.
This is Andy. I'm hearing kind of a consensus here. So any other points of discussion or conversation? All right, hearing none, we'll move to a yes or no vote for application number 3, Joanne Russ, for the community track. We'll start with Tia.
This is Tia, and yes.
Gail Marie.
yes.
Karen.
This is Karen, and yes.
At this time, this is Andy, at this time, if there are any additional recommendations for the applicant from the panel, this would be the time to offer that. Moving forward, hearing no additional recommendations for application number 4, we have Grace Davis, who has applied for the community track, and we'll start with Tia.
Yes, this is Tia, and again, another wonderful application. It was a pleasure to read and to read the letter of recommendations and the support materials that Grace provided. In one of her narratives, she's focused on the fact that her thesis focused on the importance of play and discovery in the arts education process. I thought that was very appropriate, especially for the community track. She has a solid foundation of the fundamentals of art and that background to be able to teach all the different types of mediums that she's interested, an extensive educational background, as well as a prolific practicing artist as well. I think she's a wonderful candidate.
I'll just follow Tia for a second here. I also think that this applicant's credentials are just outstanding. So I was boy, it just really rose for me. I also thought the letters of rec were good, maybe not as hyperbolic as some of the others that we have seen, but they were really quite good. I have a note here, and I was trying to figure out what I meant, my various scribbles here. I thought maybe there, under the lesson plan, there could have been a little more detail on actual pedagogy. But overall, I thought this was a really outstanding application.
And I am in a complete agreement. I thought that especially for this track, but just generally for a teaching artist, to focus process versus product is something that I am a huge proponent of. And one of my comments was the sense of wonder and creativity and share the love of art. And I thought that it was an excellent application.
All right, we'll wrap that discussion now and move into a vote. This is for application number 4, Grace Davis, for the community track. We'll begin the voting yes or no with Tia.
This is Tia Flores, and a yes for the community track.
Gail Marie.
Yes.
Karen.
This is Karen, and yes.
At this time, if there are any recommendations for the applicant from the panel, this would be the time to share them. Hearing none, we'll move to application number 5. We Write. J.M. Huck and Sheila Navarro have applied for the community track. We'll begin this discussion with Gail Marie.
Okay, I'm going to make a bunch of comments and hope that they are cohesive. I think
And
that
Can I butt in here a minute? We gotta try
Yes.
and remember to say your name, which I
Oh,
forget
I'm
to
sorry.
do before you
You
talk.
mean I'm not? You mean I'm not famous? No. I'm kidding. It's like, okay, this is Gail Marie.
Thank you.
So just bust me constantly,
I
Mary
will.
Jane. We're friends. Okay. I think that the writing samples that were included with this application illustrate what I'm calling the youth, and I'm going to use those silly air quotes here, the youth of these writers, but the ambition and eagerness to learn and grow that I sense in this application is truly palpable. And I think this group is, and I'm fascinated by the fact that it's a group. I think this group is fulfilling a need in their community, and that's what I really truly want to support. And having the support of Kundaman is no small thing, right? So I think that's something to consider. I think these are, yes, relatively new artists to their disciplines, but they're in a community where they are indeed fulfilling a void, and I wholly support this application.
I had questions.
Say your name.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Karen McKinney. And I enjoyed reading all the applications, but I thought, yes, they were young, emerging teaching artists, I wrote, and I thought their letters of recommendation were not as spectacular as some of the other ones that we have. I also questioned that the citing of working with special needs students, and they were specifically a population they'd like to work with, but I didn't see anything in the text that supported the qualification or, adapt to what their deal was with that special needs thing. I also wondered about the lesson plans were detailed. I didn't know about the engagement of varying individuals, but overall, I thought it was a good application.
This is Tia Flores for the record. I they had me engaged in their application. I thought that their passion and love for their art discipline and writing and their culture and the desire to share their culture with other individuals and to help them find their voice, I think really came across in their application. I think that their willingness to grow, they are definitely emerging teaching artists, but their willingness to grow. And I think one of the benefits from them coming off as We Write is they have one another to support they have each other to support through this process, which I think is just amazing. And I foresee them being a dynamic duo as they move forward, especially, for the community track. I think they'll be absolutely wonderful.
This is Andy. Any other discussions? We'll move forward to a vote for application number 5. We Write, J.M. Huck and Sheila Navarro for the community track. We'll start with Gail Marie.
I'll say yes.
Karen,
This is Karen, and I'll say yes.
Tia,
This is Tia, and I say yes to the community track.
if there are any recommendations for the applicant, the panel may share them now. Hearing none, we'll move to application number 6. Stephanie Sumler has applied for the community and education track. We will begin the discussion with Tia.
Yes, this is Tia for the record. I know this is repetitive in saying this, but this is another application that I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed especially Stephanie's background, how she was introduced to her craft, the visual arts, through as a mural assistant. I can only imagine what that must have been like, behind the scenes. How she perfected her craft. I think as an artist, she definitely has the strength there as a working artist that she can relate to that and share that knowledge as a teacher. She is her recommendations came great. As one quoted, as a result of her hard work, dedication, and skill set, Stephanie became a regular instructor for the Discovery Children's Museum, which has a lot of different types of students in there. She's very prepared, detail-oriented, very engaged lessons. I think she's growing herself, and you see that in both applications and how she wants to do that. Also, on the education track, her knowledge and experience with the art standards and how they're introduced, but she also has a good working knowledge of the California art standards, which she can pull into that. I was impressed, and for her to go into both tracks on this one.
Okay, I'll just jump in for a sec and then say, oh, this is Gail
start with-
Marie. Okay, but this applicant's training and knowledge rank really high for me. The letters of recommendation are quite strong. I thought that the narrative regarding goals and ultimate plans was really well articulated. And the project plans also clear and well articulated. So I thought it was a very strong application.
Mm-hmm.
This is Karen McKinney, and I agree with both of you. I thought that the workshop participants in the video were engaged and excited about the material being presented, and I'm a sucker for that kind of video. I think that that's a really good evaluation about the quality of the teaching artist. I've got a detailed and creative workshop. Her ideas were well thought out. I thought it was an excellent application.
There is no additional discussion. We'll move to vote, and we'll do two votes for this, one for the community and then one for the education track. For application number 6, Stephanie Sumler for the community track, we'll begin yes or no with Tia.
This is Tia, and I say yes to the community track.
Gail Marie,
Yes.
Karen,
This is Karen, and I say yes to the community track.
and then again for application number 6, Stephanie Sumler for the education track. We'll begin with Tia.
This is Tia, and I say yes to the education track.
Gail Marie,
This is Gail Marie, and I say yes also to the education track.
and then Karen.
This is Karen, and I say yes to the education track.
If you have any recommendations for this applicant, this would be the time to share them. Hearing none, we'll move to application number 7. Shireen Koduri. I'm just guessing there. I hope I didn't butcher that too terribly. You can send me an email about that later. Shireen, if you're listening. She's applied for the community and the education tracks, and we'll begin this discussion with Karen.
Yes, hi. This application, I have that her whole application seemed to be very student-centric, which I thought was really positive. Her community building art projects, she has a huge goals that she wants to, a passion to inspire, to embrace the others, to embrace their inner creativity. 18 years, she has great experience. I think overall it was a really solid application. I also applauded her desire to work with the LGBTQ youth and the BIPOC youth teams. This is, I think, the only application that absolutely mentioned it. I may be mistaken. I thought that I was impressed with her application. She had a great variety of options. She's very inclusive, and I enjoyed reading her application.
And then the discussion's open. Gail Marie or Tia, you're welcome to jump in.
Okay,
This
go ahead, Tia.
Okay, this is Tia. Another application that was very strong, solid background, very knowledgeable of her craft. I was impressed with her desire to share her love for the arts, and her in some of her comments where she says, "I'm always seeking to make art accessible and show that everyone is welcome in the creative space." I love that statement from her. She strives to bring the healing power of the arts to more people through the community, through art projects and her teaching. And yeah, it was a very solid application with wonderful goals to support her community. I thought it was really nice.
Okay, I'll echo. This is Gail Marie. I will echo that. I do think that the applicants, connection to community is one of the best strengths
Yes.
of this particular application. I also thought that too many notes, too many places. The workshop videos were quite engaging. The lesson plans were detailed and ambitious. I thought the writing sample lacked some freshness and sophistication, but what I was really impressed with is overall that this applicant seemed eager and willing to continue their growth in education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've kind of noted that in a previous application, and I think that's important to take into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I noted that I thought set her apart was that she's bilingual.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great asset.
All right, we will move. Mary Jane, am I doing it right in doing 2 different votes, or is there a different way that I should be doing this? I just made that up, so I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah, we do want to separate it just in case there might be a no vote in there. So we want to separate the 2, because then I'll read it out that way at the end too.
Yep, then I made it up correctly. This is Andy, and now we'll move to a vote for application number 7. Shireen Koduri for the community track, and we'll begin with Karen.
This is Karen, and I say yes for the community track.
Tia?
This is Tia, and yes for the community track.
Gail Marie.
This is Gail Marie, and I say yes for community track.
And then we'll move to the education track for application number 7, Shireen Kadori. We'll start with Karen for the education track.
This is Karen, and I say yes for the education track.
Tia.
This is Tia, and I say yes for the education track.
Gail Marie.
Gail Marie, yes.
We will offer any recommendations from the panel to the applicant at this time. Hearing none, we'll move to application number 8, Suzanne Reese, who has applied for the community track. We'll start the discussion with Tia.
This is Tia, and another application that was, obviously this Suzanne is has lifelong experience in the field of art and sharing the art, sharing it with adults and youth. In one of her statements, she says, "I believe art class offers the only opportunity for students to feel success without worry or failure." Through her many years of working with Parks and Recreation, she's been able to develop programs, but also an appreciation, reaching out to individuals in a formal, informal, and positive situation. I think based on her background and her willingness and desire, I think she's a wonderful candidate for the community.
This is Andy. Thank you, Tia. Then the discussion is open. Karen or Gail Marie, you're welcome to chime in.
I agree. I thought she was well qualified with so much experience, and some of the comments that stood out to me was unwavering positivity, lifetime of in-class instruction, and warmth, compassion, and humor, kindness, and understanding. And I thought, what do we want in a teaching artist in the community? That sounded like fit my bill right there. Anyway, design and delivery of arts-based learning experiences, strong workshop plan, and I liked her built-in strategies for engagement and control.
Okay, I'm just going to sort of say I agree with the previous comments. I did have a note here that the workshops, as evidenced in the photos and flyers, did seem engaged with the work being produced and well attended. And I think, that's kind of important when we're doing a community track. I mean, let's get bodies in the seats. And I think that was one of the strengths of this application for me.
Hearing no additional comments, I'll move to a yes or no vote for application number 8, Suzanne Reese, for the community track. We'll begin with Tia.
This is Tia, and that's a yes for community track.
Karen.
This is Karen, and that's a yes for community track.
Gail Marie.
This is Gail Marie, and it's a yes for community.
Thank you. At this time, we will hear any recommendations from the panel for the applicant. Hearing none, we will move to application number 10. Brittany Newton has applied for the community track, and we'll start this discussion with Tia.
Yes, this is Tia. In reviewing the application, I found that Brittany is also very passionate about her creativity and her culture and how she weaves those two together through her love for poetry and integrating the visual arts into that. Her letter of recommendations were very strong. Spoke about her optimistic and vibrant teaching styles and her ability to encourage and uplift her students and to move them beyond their fears and to find their personal voice. I thought that, it was a strong application on this.
I'll jump in. This is Gail Marie. I'm going to say I think it's a good application. It's a solid application. I was particularly impressed with the lesson plans were really quite good.
Mhm.
The project proposals. And
Mhm.
then also, I thought the letters of recommendation were really strong. I also agree with Tia that they're, the voice of a community, acknowledging and celebrating a voice of a community is what we really ought to be about. So that's where this application sort of rose for me in some ways. I think I would call it a solid application, but the needs of community that this applicant is attempting to fulfill, that's impressive.
Mhm.
I agree with Gail Marie. I thought it was a good application. My my concerns were based on, it's solid, it's fine, but my concerns were based on, there was a lot of talk about using arts to heal, but no indication of any kind of training in that direction or methodology as to how that's going to work. And then I thought her lesson plans were excellent, but I wondered about the sample workshop focusing on color mixing. If I signed up for a workshop on painting, I'm not sure I wouldn't be disappointed that all we did was mix color. So that was it. But I do think it was a good work, a solid. That was just my negative, not negative, constructive comments.
Now,
Um,
I want to follow up on that for just a second. I'm going to agree there. And I think that's one of the comments I have on this sheet. And then there's this sheet. But it was this notion of, we talk about art can be therapeutic, but is it really therapy? If you need therapy, you go to a therapist. So I struggled also with that. How is this going to be articulated in a community setting? So I did have those concerns, but again, that there's that joy in the making of the art that really does come through in this application.
Mhm.
I agree, and I think that she could inspire young artists and artists of all ages in the community. Yes.
Hearing no additional discussion, we'll move to a vote for application number 10, Brittany Newton, applying for the community track. We'll start with Tia.
This is Tia, and I say yes for the community track.
Oh, I'm supposed to call the next person. Karen.
This is Karen. I say yes for the community track.
Gail Marie.
This is Gail Marie, and I will say yes for community.
At this time, if there are any additional recommendations for the applicant, you can share them now. Hearing none, we'll move on to application number 12, L. Hope Wheeler, who has applied for the community track. We'll begin this discussion with Karen.
This is Karen. This application I thought was very strong. The one thing that I'm a little slow, and it took me a while to realize that this artist is teaching poetry performance, not poetry writing. Everything in the application is geared towards how to perform the poetry to the point where, and then we'll sit down and write a prompt from a poem from these prompts, but no indication about how to do it. So once I came to terms with the fact that this was a workshop for already experienced poets, I thought it was very strong. She talks about, the transformative power of art, poetry, empowerment, focus on performing poetry. I'm trying to see what other notes I scribbled down. The workshops, the work samples and videos reinforce the strength of the artist's poetry, powerful words, powerful performances. And the comments in her letters of recommendation is as eager to listen as she is to speak, which I think is really important. Talent for motivating others in a positive way and empowering aspiring poets. The letter from the student I thought was particularly powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. This is Gail Marie. I'm glad you you introduced the discussion of this application in the way that you did. I struggle. I'm an old academic, y'all, and you know, in a lot of educational settings, spoken word is in the theater department. It has nothing to do with the English department. And so I, you know, often struggle with how to assess what's really happening in because I think of it as a theater workshop, all right, in many ways. So I had to also sort of remind myself that the work is meant to be heard, not read. All right. And that makes a big difference, you know, so that we're not saying that, you know, the work on the page is too thin, because it's really meant to be, there's a body that's going to perform this. But I did think, and I'm going over to my other page here, that the letters of rec were really quite good. There was a good narrative about background and intent. And then I thought that the proposal plans were good. But I do really believe that it is a very different genre. And so you know, you're really teaching a different skill, all right, than actual literary art. So I appreciate that you introduced that, because it was a concern of mine, but when I rethought it, then I came to terms with the application.
This is Tia for the record. I thought that the application was very strong. I thought that obviously her love for poetry and spoken word came through in the application, and her letter of recommendations were strong. What some of the quotes is, she believes poetry belongs everywhere, and that her goal is to equip the students with the skills needed to make art a viable career option. Yeah, she's meticulous and organized, and shares that love and also that skill set in the performance of, you know, of literary arts through spoken word. I think came through very clear on that.
Hearing no other discussion, this is Andy. We will move to a vote for application number 12, L. Hope Wheeler, who has applied for the community track, beginning with yes or no from Karen.
This is Karen, and yes from me on the community track.
Gail Marie.
This is Gail Marie, and for community track, yes.
Tia.
This is Tia, and yes for community track.
At this time, if there are any additional recommendations for the applicant, you can share them now. Hearing none, we'll move to application number 13. I think I'm going to pronounce this Jorge Sia. And if I mispronounced it, again, you know, send me an email. He has applied for the community and education tracks. We will begin the discussion with Tia.
Yes, this is Tia, and in reviewing Jorge's application, I see that on his artistic strength, he has a lot of knowledge and experience in the public and private art projects. He's through a letter of recommendation, he's a driven individual and continues to grow professionally. He has a sense of responsibility and passion for his art. His teaching, he has limited teaching experiences but it looks like, you know, he'd be a great one for the community. The track on that and the samples that he gave and the letters of recommendation supported that he's his experience is limited to a teen summer program as an instructor. On the education track, it appears that he has limited to no experience on that. Basically, I found it to be a good application, especially with a strong artistic strength.
This is Karen, and I thought that while his His work was compelling, imaginative, thought-provoking. Most of his experience is in public art. Materials indicated to me that his experience teaching was primarily with other experienced artists. And that was kind of a concern for me. And even his lesson plan was designed for a very small group of experienced artists. And I wasn't sure if that was meets the needs of the roster. That's it seems I thought that the workshops needed more details, more actual instruction, and inclusion of student participants with less art experience was my thought.
I just want to, this is Gail Marie. Karen, I want to applaud everything that both you and she have just said. I can't really add much to it because you have already articulated some of my concerns with the application. I thought that some of the descriptions or the narrative components were a little inarticulate. I wasn't really sure what would happen in the experience. I found the resume engaging, and the work samples were really quite good, but I then too also thought that the proposals, or what we might call lesson plans, seemed a bit thin. So a little less experience than some of our other applicants.
I really felt that the lack of experience would be a disadvantage specifically in the education track. I'm not sure that this roster is the place for on-the-job training, and that we want to have the very best representatives of each of the disciplines going out into the schools and representing the Arts Council. I did think that perhaps he might, improve or get some experience in the community, but I have to say, I wondered whether that was something that he should do and then come back and apply again. And I could use with some guidance because I have a big old question mark next to him.
This is Tia for the record. I share the same concerns that you do, Karen and Gail Marie. I think that he obviously has knowledge for his craft and a lot of experience there, but lacks the experience in actually, the teaching experience, engaging, especially introducing somebody to that craft. And is the roster a place to do the on-the-job training on that? I agree. That.
This is Andy. Karen, is your question for clarity from Arts Council staff, or clarity in discussing with the other panelists that you have a question or a thought?
No, it was just to hear what the other panelists have to say. And I think I heard it. I think that having witnessed many very talented artists in many disciplines who do not have teaching experience and perhaps struggle with that, I think I have figured out what I think.
Mrs. Andy, is there any additional discussion? We'll move on to voting on application number 13, Jorge Sia, who has applied for the community and education track. The first vote will be for community track. We will start with Tia.
This is Tia, and I say no to the community track.
Gail Marie?
This is Gail Marie. In the community track I'm struggling with, but I'm going to say yes.
Karen?
This is Karen, and I say no to the community track.
Thank you. We'll move on to application number 13, Jorge Sia, for the education track. We'll again begin with Tia.
This is Tia, and again, no for the education track.
Gail Marie?
This is Gail Marie, and for the education track, I do say no.
And Karen?
For the education track, I say this is Karen, and no.
At this time, if there are any recommendations that you would like to offer to the applicant, you may do so.
I'd like to offer the applicant the recommendation to get some experience teaching. Go to a recreation center, volunteer, because I do think there's the potential to be a wonderful teaching artist. It's just that I'm not sure that I think this roster is the place to become the teaching artist. I think it's the place to be the teaching artist and perhaps grow. But I did think that the resume and his work was very solid, very impressive. Just needs some more experience before he applies again. I would encourage him to apply again after working with the populations that he's applying to work with.
Yes, this is Tia, and I agree with Karen. I think that he's got a solid background as far as, his knowledge of his art form, especially in the public, his public art form. I think that he just needs to gain some experience in creating lesson plans, working with different populations of students, adults, senior, whatever that might look like. There's a lot of community opportunities to do that. Lots of different arts organizations that he can hook up with, volunteer, just to get those hours and experience behind him, and then apply, then come on, apply for both tracks again, once he can get that experience behind him.
This is Gail Marie, and I agree. Okay, and I'm hoping that the applicant will reach out to the Arts Council for where those opportunities to get the experiences would be. But I do think that that's necessary before we fully consider, particularly for the education track.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for those recommendations. This is Andy, and now we have completed. So we will move to Mary Jane for review of the votes for each applicant.
Right, thank you. Okay, applicant number 1, Ashley Vargas, yes on the community track. Applicant number 2, Matthew Morgan, yes on the education track. Applicant number 3, Joanne Russ, a yes on the community track. Grace Davis, applicant number 4, Grace Davis, yes on the community track. J.M. Huck and Sheila Navarro, or We Write group, yes on the community track. That was number 5. Application number 6, Stephanie Sumler, yes on the community track and yes on the education track. Number 7, Shireen Shudre, yes on the community track and yes on the education track. Number 8, Suzanne Reese, yes on the community track. Number 10, Brittany Newton, yes on the community track. Number 12, Elle Wheeler, yes on the community track. And Jorge, what's the last name? Jorge Seja, no on the community track and no on the education track. And I did take notes for the recommendations, which I will send when I do contact everybody.
This is Andy. Thank you, Mary Jane, for that. At this time, do any of the panelists, now that you've kind of had a moment to sit and think, wish to change their votes?
This is Karen, and I'm good.
All right.
This is Gail Marie, and I'm also good.
This is Tia. I'm satisfied with the votes.
This is Andy. Staff will forward the panel recommendations to the Nevada Arts Council Board for review and approval at its upcoming meeting in February. At this time, we'll move on to agenda item D, public comment. Members of the public who wish to participate during a public meeting may do so by providing public comment during the 2 designated public comment periods. Because of time considerations, the period for public comment by each speaker may be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are urged to avoid repetition of comments made by previous speakers. The panel will not take public comment regarding any applications under consideration. Mary Jane, is there any public comment in the chat or email or in the audience?
I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see anything on my email, and Tony's joined us, so he has a comment.
Hi, all. Gail Marie, Karen, Tia, thank you so much for your thoughtful comments and for taking time to be a part of this process. We really appreciate all the effort that you put in, and I think the comments were really well provided, and I think everyone got a lot out of that. So again, very thoughtful. Thank you for that. Andy, thanks for chairing. As always, you do a great job. And Mary Jane, thank you for helping facilitate everything. And I'm just going to say this on public comment. This will be Mary Jane's last roster that she's a part of as she is retiring. And on Friday will be her last day. But Mary Jane, so grateful for all you've done for the Arts Council, and in particular on our teaching artist roster. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, and I want to say thanks a lot, Andy. It was great. You do a great job, and Karen and Gail Marie, Tia, wonderful comments. Well, very thorough. You guys always do such a thorough job, and so yeah, I really appreciate it. I appreciated getting to know all of you and working. Cry.
We are too. Miss you.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. I'll be around. I'll be
Yeah.
like you, Karen. I'm going to be in the audience now.
It's
I
a
think
great
she's gonna
place to
be-
be.
She's going to be one of the panelists coming up. So
That's right. That's right.
Mary Jane, how long have you been with the Arts Council?
17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I worked prior to a local arts agency in Tucson for like another 10, 15 years there. So I've been with the Arts Councils for a long time. Yeah. Great work. Meet a lot of people, meet a lot of great people, get to work with a lot of great artists. And so, yeah. And when I got into it, I had volunteered because I had read about it when I was in Tucson. I was in school, and I'm like, what's an arts council? What do they do? And I started volunteering, and so that's how I got into it. It's a business. Giving away money, always a good thing.
It
Well,
is.
thank you, Mary Jane, for all your support and your dedication and your love for, for the arts and for our state. I mean, what a great asset you've been to the Arts Council, but also the state of Nevada. So you'll be greatly missed. I'm getting emotional, but yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'll be around. Okay.
I'm gonna pull back into business. Is there anybody in the audience that is not on the screen? I don't know if like we have.
Yes, for the record, Harry Ward, Deputy Attorney General. I've been monitoring it, but thank you. You guys did a great job, and I'm glad everyone was reminded to state your name before you said anything, but y'all did a great job. Thanks.
We forgot a few times. This is the All right, this is Andy for the record. We'll move on to item E, adjournment. Just saying thank you to everyone here on this call for your thoughtful approach in commenting and making recommendations for the FY24 teaching artist roster. This meeting is now adjourned at 3:10 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
take care. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Happy New Year. Bye, y'all.
Yeah, Happy New
Bye.
Year.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.